Introducing On the Horizon, a podcast by Horizon Resources Cooperative, supporting farmers and ranchers across northwest North Dakota and northeast Montana. Join host Levi Hall as he engages with agronomy experts, grain traders, and community leaders, sharing insights to help you make confident, informed decisions for your operations. From market trends to practical advice, we bring you the conversations that matter.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week we have Jacob Morse from the KFYR KUMV team. And Jacob is a meteorologist over there, and we get to talk about something that everybody's been talking about lately, the weather here in northwest North Dakota, northeast Montana. If you look at the North Dakota Ag Weather Network maps, you'll see anywhere from 5.5 to 10 inches across our trade territory. So Jacob tries to help pull out his crystal ball and give us a little bit of a prediction towards when harvest is really going to get going. Enjoy the show. At Horizon Resources, grain marketing isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. We work side by side with our producers to create marketing strategies that perform. We're here to serve, we're built to grow, we are Horizon Resources. Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, we have Jacob Morse, one of the meteorologists for KFYR KUMV. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is awesome. I get to talk about our weather, and I've been forecasting it for the past 4 or 5 years here in North Dakota. I originally grew up in Connecticut, then moved out here. This was my first job out of college, but I've loved North Dakota so much that I've stuck around and enjoy working with the Firstborn Weather Team with Kevin, Heidi, and Megan. And it's been an active summer, to say the least, with not only a lot of rainfall, but severe storms keeping us busy.
Absolutely. It looked like it was going to be a really boring summer for most of June. It seemed like we were going to be quite dry for the year. And now the gears switched, and I've never seen anything like this. So can you tell us what the heck's going on? I've never seen this much rain in the last 30 days of the month.
It's been incredible. The spigot just turned on and it doesn't want to seem to turn off. You mentioned how kind of the midpoint of June was that turning point where we saw a lot more severe weather and also a lot more rainfall. And if we went through and looked at the statistics for the month of July, some areas in North Dakota had the top 5 wettest July on record. There was more so at the Minot Airport, some other smaller stations. But in the Williston area, at the Williston Airport, which is the long-term climate observing station, they received 4 inches of rainfall, 4.04, and that is the 12th wettest July on record for Williston, which is pretty incredible. Usually we only see about 2.5 to 3 inches of rainfall for the month of July, so certainly a surplus. And that has kind of continued here as we've gone through early August. Williston saw an inch of rainfall on the 7th when we had some of those severe storms impact southern and eastern North Dakota, but also there were some severe storms in the northwest part of the state earlier in the day with hail and damaging winds. There was some even crop damage reported in Divide County on the 7th, just a few days ago. So we've certainly seen severe weather, unfortunately, impact farmers and ranchers, but also the rainfall has been plentiful, but you can also have too much of a good thing, especially when it comes in this short of a period of time. And what's been causing this? Well, I have a graphic here that I'm going to share my screen for, and it's kind of a pattern that we see in the winter or springtime. So it's not too common to see this in the summer, when we have a big dip in the jet stream over the west coast of the United States. And that allows for storm systems to form and then track up here into the northern plains. So this is an average of what our mid layers of the atmosphere have been over the past couple of weeks, going back into July. And there's a subtle dip with the cooler colors across the west coast of the United States. You can see that a little better with the anomaly or the difference from normal, where this is indicating that the jet stream is dipping way to the south over the west coast of the United States. And on a much larger scale, national perspective, this has been realized with San Francisco having one of their coolest summers on record, whereas other parts of the Gulf Coast and eastern part of the United States have seen very, very hot weather. There's been a persistent heat dome there. So when you get this big dip in the jet stream over the western United States, storm systems like to form there in these dips or troughs, and then they ride up over that ridge or heat dome where the warm weather is farther down to the southeast. So we're right in the storm track here in the northern plains, and that's allowed for a lot of rainfall to occur with storm systems coming in out of the southwest. There's also been some storm systems coming in from the northwest, some clipper style systems that you would see in the winter, but they've produced showers and storms where the parent area of low pressure stays up in Canada. Another feature to look at when you have this big ridge or heat dome across the southern and eastern United States that's very persistent is we can get ridge riders or ring of fire kind of situation where thunderstorms like to form along the edge of that heat dome or big ridge of high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And we're right along that edge where you see the warmer colors end and the cool colors begin on this anomaly map. These storms have been tracking right along that edge of the ridge. And sometimes those can form into quite big storm complexes. So it's not always steady rainfall that has been producing these impressive rainfall totals over the past couple of months. There's been a lot of thunderstorm activity. And sometimes that has produced some flooding. It hasn't been as widespread in terms of flooding concerns in North Dakota as some other parts of the Midwest or plains. But we have seen a lot of rainfall from these thunderstorm complexes. I'm thinking about the derecho that we had back in June. That was more so in southern North Dakota. But then there's been other large lines of storms that have come through northeast Montana and northwest North Dakota, just based on the overall pattern that we've seen here across the northern plains over the past several months. And that has kept our humidity a lot higher. So you can think of it as the opposite of drought leads to more drought. Kind of wetness leads to more wetness when you can get the atmosphere to remain saturated, and then a disturbance comes through to produce showers and thunderstorms.
Absolutely. So I had a farmer one time tell me it always rains after a dry spell, which I that was a good one. But so what's going to cause this to I always hate to wish away rain, especially in western North Dakota, but what's going to cause at least a pause in this cycle for that jet stream to move or that heat dome to move, so we can get a break to get out into the field. I know that we've got a lot of people that are itching to get those combines rolling. Is there anything you see coming that's going to give us a little bit of reprieve? And I have noticed those larger lines of storms this year later into the season than typical. It seems like normally by last half July, we're banking on isolated storms more than anything. So there definitely has been a difference this year.
Certainly. So that ridge of high pressure, that heat dome in the southeastern United States might retrograde or shift back to the west a little bit to give us a drier and warmer spell, more so into the fall. So I have some maps here from the Climate Prediction Center, which is a great resource for longer term predictions. And what they show is that over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably have some more periods of showers and storms. However, the heat will also be building back in. So you can kind of see that center of the heat dome coming back over the central United States. However, there'll still be some more opportunities for storms to come here, coming out of the Pacific Northwest, riding over the Rockies, and then here into the northern plains. That could also continue a little bit over the next 8 to 14 days. You can see the heat more centered over the Rocky Mountains, and then a smaller or weaker signal for above normal precipitation locally. What I'm watching and what has been a little bit higher confidence is the fall outlook featuring below normal precipitation amounts. So there's a little higher confidence that in the northern Rockies and northern plains, here in the Dakotas towards Montana, centered on Wyoming and South Dakota, though, we could see below normal precipitation for the months of August, September, and October. It's probably not going to be uh, an instantaneous change where we're seeing these storm systems come through with almost daily thunderstorm chances over the past several months, and then we go to no rain any day of the week. We'll probably still have some occasional chances of showers and storms. I mean, even looking ahead for the next couple of weeks, we'll probably even have some severe weather chances. So we're not quite out of that summer mode of showers and storms. Of course, this summer has been a bit supercharged with the frequency of the showers and storms, but the confidence in having less rainfall in the autumn period is a little bit higher. That could carry over looking ahead to the 3 months centered on October as well.
Awesome. So by the time we get out into September, October, November, we're going to start to see a little bit drier. We're not going to see nearly as much moisture as kind of the rough prediction right now. So we're not expecting any early snows or anything at this point.
That's correct. Yeah, the fall outlook does favor above normal temperatures, and that has been the trend just looking climatologically over the past 5 or so years, is that our seasons are shifting to be cooler in the spring. Summer is somewhat delayed, and then summer lingers into the fall a lot later, and then winter sometimes starts abruptly, sometimes is a little bit delayed. But it's that shifting of the seasons that has been really interesting to see in the long-term patterns, where the warmest weather in the summer might not occur until August, even into September or early October. This summer has been overall relatively cool. There's been some periods of 90s, but we haven't had a prolonged heat wave like we saw in 2021 or some other years that there was a lot of drought. Usually the drought years are a lot hotter. Certainly with the excessive rainfall this summer, we've seen a lot more cooler periods.
It's funny that you picked 2021 because that was the year that popped into my head as well. We had um, really obviously dry but hot and windy June as well, and really caused that crop to regress at an alarming pace. That was one thing that kind of kept this crop hanging on. Now, by the time we started getting rain at the end of July, it was probably a little bit too little, too late. But I feel good about where we're at moisture wise going for the 2026 crop. This is going to help recharge that soil a little bit. um, do you let's see, where was I going with that? That's gonna help recharge the soil a little bit. Do you guys have any guesses as to anything else? You said, plan on a little bit drier fall here. Have you looked out into, early winter yet or not quite that far?
That's a little bit uncertain at this point. Usually we start looking at the winter outlooks around October and November. So then projecting into December, January, February, March. Right now, the main signal in the Pacific Ocean is El Nino or La Nina, that we see how that's going to impact our weather in the winter. And that is neutral right now. So there is no clear signal. Last year, it was, I believe, a La Nina winter, and it could swing back to El Nino, but we're not positive of how the ocean water temperatures are going to react yet.
Perfect. Um, was there any other, things that you wanted to show us here, on this episode, Jacob?
Yeah, I just wanted to show some of the maps of how wet it's been over the past couple of months. And I'm going to share my screen here. And you can see on this climate mapping site that I like to use for historical records just the amount of rainfall that happened from the midpoint of June to the midpoint of August. And we've seen between 4 and 10 inches of rain as an overall average across the state. There's been some parts of southeastern North Dakota that have seen even more than that, where the storm track's been a bit more active. But if we do departure from normal precipitation, the only area that has been a little bit below normal is around the Turtle Mountains and towards northeastern North Dakota. But as I mentioned earlier, we've seen some storms coming out of the northwest and a lot of storms impacting southern North Dakota. We've seen copious amounts of rainfall pretty much anywhere you go in North Dakota, and that carries over to eastern Montana as well. So certainly a abnormal year in terms of the amount of rainfall we've seen. Usually the summer months, we see the most rainfall. Uh, we see about 2.5 to 3.5 inches of rain for each of the summer months. But this year we've seen anywhere between 4 and 6 inches of rain in some spots just in the month of July. That is carried over here into August with these, it seems like almost daily shower and storm chances. And we're going to probably see that pattern shift at some point as we head into the fall months. It's just taking its time to get here.
It's funny that you mentioned the daily showers because it used to be 25% meant that it wasn't gonna rain, and now it's like 25% chance means we're getting a half inch.
Yep.
It's definitely been a unique cycle. Jacob, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and we'll have to do this again sometime as we get closer to winter and get ready for feeding cattle season and whatnot, and then again next spring.
Certainly. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate talking with you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for tuning in to On the Horizon. If our conversation today sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Stay connected by following @Horizon Resources Co-op on Facebook and Instagram and explore the world of agriculture with us. We're excited to continue bringing you real conversations with Horizon Resources industry partners, member owners, and employees, discovering more about your local neighbors and community friends. Until next time, keep looking towards the horizon.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be used or considered as an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell commodities. Horizon Resources does not make any representation, warranty, or guarantee as to the completeness, accuracy, timeliness, or suitability of any information contained within any part of this podcast. Horizon Resources does not accept any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation loss of profit, which may arise directly or indirectly from use or reliance on such information. Whilst the information provided has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, Horizon Resources does not attest to its accuracy or completeness. Horizon Resources reserves the right to change any source without restriction or notice. The information herein is indicative only and is subject to change.